everyone, I'm Lisa Walton and welcome to Quilt Stories. Today it's evening for me, but it's actually morning for Claire Passmore, who is in the UK. And it's just lovely to see you again. I haven't seen you since Birmingham and I don't know when I'm going to get back to Birmingham quilt show. So it's really lovely to be able to catch up.
Hi, and lovely to see you too. Yeah, it seems like an age ago, but I'm sure we'll get together sometime.
One day when this is all over. We're going to be talking about one of Claire's quilts today. It's actually the quilt hanging behind her, and it's called 3 Wise Words. That's very hard to say, so I'll just said it very slowly. And it was a quilt that she did specifically for an exhibition, and we're going to talk about the exhibition. And I'll switch over to the presentation. There's a photo of you. You look actually very relaxed there.
You can't see, my nephew is just to the side of me and we were really having a great laugh, but it was the nicest photo I could find of me actually looking. Not with my hair sticking up at a funny angle.
I thought there might have been a glass of wine involved, but
no, just the nephew.
Here is the quilt, and what I really like about this quilt is all the text, and we're going to find out about how we use the text and the 3D water that's coming out of the tap as well. The first slide we've got is Claire standing on what? Well,
this is a photo that was taken probably about 4 or 5 years ago now on a day visit to a wine farm that I went to. And although I'm not exactly one for great heights, this intrigued me because it was a glass floor. And beneath there, that's the cellar. And it is absolutely full of empty wine bottles. And, you know, you keep these sort of funny memories tucked in the back of your mind somewhere, and you never know quite when an image like that is going to suddenly pop into your mind and be a part of a piece of work that you make. But so that's a picture of me, and I must say I'm really pleased with it because I've discovered if somebody takes a photo from above, you look really thin. It's a good thing for me.
I suspect if that was taken a few years ago, there's probably a few more wine bottles in that cellar.
I bet you there are, yes. But it was amazing. And, you tiptoeing across that glass was a strange feeling.
Yes, those glass floors are really scary. Mm-hmm. I went on one, Shanghai, I think, sort of like a zillion levels up. Scary. With that sticking in the back of your head,
yes,
you saw a call for entry for textile posters. So would you like to tell us about where the exhibition was?
Yeah, the call for entry came from the organisation Sakura, Studio Art Quilt Associates. I've been a member of that for quite a few years now, and this was back in 2017, and the call for entry was issued. The idea of a textile poster to me was quite interesting. Lots of the work I make in the 2D quilt sort of genre has a message or something that I want to convey, and that a textile poster is a perfect medium for that, because it needs to very quickly and easily say whatever it is that the subject of the poster. So I looked into it and decided that I would make this poster, and I think the original exhibition opened probably in Houston, I can't quite remember now, in America, but it also toured Australia and several other places. So it was a really interesting exhibition to be part of, and I was really pleased that I was lucky enough to get selected for it.
Sakura Studio Art Quilt Associates, that we're both members of, very proud members of, has a fabulous website, and the link is below. If you want to go and check it out, a lot of the exhibitions have beautiful, beautiful catalogues that you can purchase, or they have them online to view, especially in this time. It's really lovely just to go to the Sakura website and check out some of the exhibitions. So when you saw this call for entry, you decided to make a plastic bottle? No.
No, it was back in 2017. It was at kind of the time when, I think from memory now, I might not be exactly right, but I remember there was kind of a big push generally. People stopped drinking quite so many fizzy drinks, and we were all trying to be a bit more thoughtful about drinking less sugary things and moving. Lots of people moved over to drinking water. I seem to remember that. And the easiest way to get a nice drink when you're out is just to go into the store and buy a bottle of water, and then that was the end of that. We all thought we were doing the right thing. But of course, they all came in these plastic bottles. And at the time, I was living in New Zealand, and we used to live really close to the beach. So every morning we'd go walking on the beach, and this is a photo that I took there, and it was amazing the number of plastic bottles that we used to find. Nowadays, I think I just find the caps. I don't find the bottles anymore, just the caps. So this idea of a poster, the feeling of the time of that we need to do something about this sea of plastic that we're sort of going under in, came together, and I thought it would be a good subject for the poster that I wanted to make.
I remember when we started all getting bottles of water, the first water that was available in Australia was from Indonesia, where you wouldn't actually drink the water. And we live in Australia where we have taps with beautiful water. And I
Exactly.
always thought it was really odd, yes,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we imported millions of bottles, plastic bottles from Indonesia. So you work in a sketchbook by the look of it.
Sometimes I work in a sketchbook, less so these days, but at the time I was, very much into recording things, not necessarily huge amounts of preparation beforehand, but more as a record of all of the bits of pieces that I was sort of thinking about. And it was a good place to store, it's a good place to store all of my scrappy bits of drawing and that kind of thing. So it kind of forms a record of the passage of through the making of the piece.
Yes.
But this was sort of my general first thought, was that, that we'd have the sea of plastic, the bottles, a
Yes.
tap with the idea of, the notion of, come on, everybody, we've got tap water that we can safely drink where we live. Maybe not so in other
Yes.
places, but, why on earth are we buying these little widgy bottles of water and then throwing the plastic bottle away? So I wanted to try and sort of convey all of that very simply in an image. And for me, I really like being able to, the phrase, a picture paints 1,000 words, trying to just get a whole message crammed just into one big image. So that's what I was those were my initial thoughts when I started this piece of work.
You hadn't quite worked out the message, but you knew you wanted to put a message in. So
Yeah, exactly.
what's happening here?
Okay, so now then, this is the background. Naturally, water, blue seemed to be the obvious choice for that. And I had this fabulous doormat outside the front door of my home. If you see that pattern at the top, it was like a really thick rubber mat. And then the other one with the holes in, that was a much more weedy affair. It was a really thin little rubber mat. But still, it occurred to me that it was the height of summer. I thought, I know, sun printing, that could be an interesting thing to try. So I wanted to have at least some texture and interest on the background. So I went to the shop and I bought some sun paint, whatever it's called. And it came, in a nice little, probably about 30 ml bottle, which
Yes.
was either going to cost £200 or $200 worth of paint to make this whole huge piece of work. So, okay, right, throw that idea out of the window. And then I started to do some research on the internet and came across using soy milk and paint. And I thought, okay, it could be an interesting thing to try. So I got myself, a nice liter of soy milk and got out my acrylic paints, mixed up a nice juicy batch and spread it all over the fabric, laid it out, and the wind blew. So I thought, okay, right, what can I use? And then the rubber doormat came to mind. So I whacked the rubber doormats onto the fabric, left it for a couple of hours. That's what
Sunprint.
we ended up with.
Isn't
It was
that wonderful?
interesting. Yeah, so
Yes.
soy milk does work.
I know that I've spoken to Judy Coates Perez, who worked out her own paint as well. She wanted to play around. She maybe did it a little bit more scientifically than you did,
Yeah, I'm
but
not scientific.
it's a great idea. And here are some drawings.
H2O, good old H2O. Yeah, in many guises. I wanted to, after I'd done the blue, it looked okay, but it was a bit meh. So I thought, okay, what can we do? Water. I was trying to rack my brains, and I suddenly thought of, okay, H2O. How can we make that a bit more interesting to make a background? So I was doodling away, and this is the tidy version of the doodle. And I was just looking at it's actually a really nice little sort of bunch of lines, if you like, with the H breaking
Yeah,
making a little grid, and you could fit the 2 and the O in the between and repeat some of the lines. So
very graphic little logo.
I liked it. So I thought, okay, how can I now apply that on top of that blue background to add some more, definition and interest? So I thought, okay, let's see. So I got some of the plastic bottles that I'd collected from the beach and flattened them out, slit them, flattened them out, and made them into stencils. Do you see down there on the tabletop? Those are the pieces of plastic that I squished flat, and I encouraged them with the iron to be a bit less curved. And I just cut into them the shapes, the lines and the 2 and the 0 as a stencil. And then I placed the whole sheet on the wall and just stenciled them on, literally with some weaky, watery acrylic paint. I didn't want them to be really opaque. I wanted to have a little bit of transparency. So they're, that's forming the background now. And I was quite pleased with how it turned out. It was interesting.
So I really like that, and I love the fact you use those nasty bottles.
Yeah.
So another page of your sketchbook is some words and more bottles.
Well, you're getting a bit of a theme here now. The next thing I wanted to consider was how to get the idea of that drowning in the sea of plastic kind of idea. And with the thought that although I know we can recycle the bottles, I know so many of them do end up just in landfill. So I wanted to try and use the idea of, that going back to that photograph of those bottles at the wine farm, to sort of create some stencils, or in this case now I chose instead to use lino prints to make the bottle shapes. It was quite interesting. I don't know if you can tell, but from my background and where we buy the bottles, you can see the green one and you could probably tell what brand that one was. Yes. With the bubbles. And so on. And then the word landfill, just trying to get the idea that we can just keep cramming everything in on top of each other. So I carved those lino blocks and then was just experimenting with how to put them together to show that landfill.
That's a very impressive looking set of cutters.
Yeah, these are my favorites. I have got more, but these are the ones that I use all the time. If I had to say to somebody, these are the ones that I wish I hadn't bought the rest, put it that way, because they're not the cheapest things. Those are the ones I like. I love the fact that the stuff that you buy to sharpen them with, or the stuff that I like to buy, it's a really pale blue paste. So I use my stone, and then I use this really pale blue paste, and it's got the most revolting name. It's called Smurf poo. And you smear it on, and it makes them so beautifully sharp. So anyway, after a bit of playing around, this is the bottom part of the quilt where I just printed lots and lots and lots of those bottles and the word landfill, just cramming them all in. And it ended up looking like that.
Do you find that when you're working on something, it certainly sounds like it, that you're not quite sure where you're going when you start, and ideas just come to you as you work?
It's a fair description. I have a vague direction that I'm going in, but I very much am a person who not works on the fly, but I try a lot of ideas out as I go and then modify my thoughts and just develop ideas from there. So yeah, I'm not quite a wing it merchant, but that kind of thing.
It's definitely how I work. Most of my ideas come in the middle of the night, and then I get up and it's like, what was I thinking? It was a really good idea.
Why do they happen in the night? What's going on?
I don't know. This is a lovely old tap that you've used for drawing.
Yeah, I found that in the op shop. And here in the UK, we'd probably call it the charity shop. How an old tap gets in an op shop, charity shop, I have no idea. Yeah. It did. And you know how when you're browsing through something, you suddenly think, I have no idea what I'll use that for, but I can't leave it because it's really interesting. So I probably paid $1 or something like that for it.
So you actually had that a lot longer than
yeah.
You just bought it because you liked
It's from the box of treasure.
Great, looks good. Yeah. Okay, so you've sketched it out. You've got words coming out of your
how things sort of start off in my mind, at least.
So here's the tap when you've made it, and a bit of raw edge applique and
absolutely raw edge applique. I started a Hawaiian quilt as a gift for my husband 8 years ago with needle turned applique, and I'm ashamed to say it's still 3/4 finished because I really can't be doing with any more needle turn applique. So raw edge applique for me.
Here is your water, which is very interesting.
Once I put the tap onto the quilt, I realized that I probably had quite enough text, quite enough liney marks in that sense. So I wanted to try and think of something different. So to try and get the idea of all this water whooshing out of the tap, thought I'd try the idea of just grabbing some soluble, that stabilizer, soluble stabilizer. Yep. And I just made a sandwich of all of the silvery and glitzy bits of wool and thread that I could find that I had, bits of ribbon, all sorts of things, and just squished them all between 2 layers, and then just stitched free motion stitching all the way down them, washed out those water soluble, and I ended up with this sort of strip of wiggly bits that were a little bit transparent. The gaps gave you that feeling of looking through them. That's what I went with in the end.
Great idea. And now we've found the words.
Yes, eventually, and like you say, sometimes it takes a while for things to form and the thoughts. And I settled eventually on these words: refill, not landfill. And then again, I had loads of different ways to sort of present that, and trying to imagine how I would be able to put that onto the quilt. And then when I put the tap onto the quilt, I suddenly realized that I had this tap that was floating in no man's land. It needed something to anchor it in some way. So I thought I would make it the pipe, the standpipe. So as you can see there, it was just sticking out from the side, but it just looked wrong. So I, instead of having the message here, but I then moved it to be part of the standpipe, if you like, the pipe, and also to give me a balance in the design of the quilt. And I think it satisfied the need for it to be balanced really well. So yes. I popped them on.
Just pop them on.
Just pop them on.
Close up the bottle.
Mm-hmm. And then underneath the water, just added that bottle. To make it seem that it was a little transparent, I very faintly added more of those prints, but with the weakest paint I could manage to get, just to give the impression that it was, you could look through. And matching them up was a real challenge. This bottle on the right here that you see peeping out from the side, just trying to get that to match up. I was there with my eye trying to...
I thought it was a transparent piece of fabric, so it worked. So
no, it was just a piece of orange scrap of hand-dyed fabric I had in the end.
Very clever. So here is the finished quilt. I love the bubbles in the words. That's really nice. And
yeah, it was the endless challenge of how can you fill something
and it was accepted. I hasten to add, not everything is accepted for Sakura exhibitions, but this one was absolutely accepted. And these are some of the posters that were in the exhibition, including yours. And I actually did sit at a few exhibitions. They're listed down on the right. I sat at the Sydney one and Canberra, I think, and Newcastle, to sit and watch the exhibition and talk to people about it. And it's one of the wonderful things about Sakura and the exhibitions is that you get people who don't believe the quilts, or they're real traditionalists that come along and they see these quilts in Sakura exhibitions and they go, oh, I didn't think that was a quilt. And that's I'd love to do things like that. And that's really, we're sort of we break away from the mold, which is really nice, I think.
And it's win-win, isn't it? Because we get to the pleasure from making the quilts, and then we get the pleasure to be able to share them with others if they're exhibited. And like you say, then also we get the pleasure of seeing other people come along and go, wow, that's a quilt. Yeah, like you say, I want to do that. I'm interested in that.
That's what we do. And then we say, well, we can help you with that.
Yeah, come join us.
You don't just make bottle quilts. You're a very busy lady. Would you like to just talk briefly about your teaching?
Yeah, sure. Ever since I was first working, I was a teacher. I've been a primary school teacher. I was a teacher of adults later on when I lived in South Africa. It's in me, I think. I can't help but want to tell people and chat to people about things. I run lots of classes. These are just 2 of the classes that I teach. They're the ones that, presently teaching in person is just not on the cards, certainly not where I'm living at the moment in the UK. But 2 of the classes I teach were really good classes to turn into online classes. Not all of my classes work well as online classes. You know, sometimes you just need to be next to somebody or provide materials that they might not have. But these two classes work really well. So, and they're really fun. You know, they're not super difficult. They're really just really pleasurable things to do and make, so that they're just 3D flower bowls and mosaics I made for the 12-month horoscope. And I have a local shop that I used to work a lot with in teaching, and each year they have a challenge to their customers. The shop's called Midsummer Quilting, and I made.
Taught quilting.
Have you?
Yes, I have.
Yes, super. Oh, that's really nice. I didn't know you'd been there.
Oh, yes, many years ago. One day I might get back there.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be nice. I think they're closed at the moment, sadly. But yeah, so I made the 12 horoscope mosaics for their exhibition, and then they turn out to be a really nice thing to teach as a class. Those Zoom classes, online classes, are working really nicely, and they're fun.
Are they on-demand classes or in-person classes?
They are. I teach them as live group classes. So
and so they'll be on your website?
Yeah, all on my website, or you can get in touch. But yeah, the details and so on, and the photographs and things are on my website.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, all Claire's information is down below in the description box, so please check it out. And also, Sakura's information is there as well. And we'd love you to join and be part of the family. We really enjoy having new members at all levels. You do not have to be an expert. You do not have to have won best of show at anything. You can be a complete beginner, and there's fabulous opportunities and education programs and mentorship programs and everything. So check out the website, and we'd love to see you there. That was lovely to see your work, and I work exactly the same way in terms of not quite knowing where I'm going when I start, and so it's lovely to know that I'm not alone. And it's really interesting just to see the light behind you coming in for the morning, and it's getting darker and darker here. But
yeah,
Zoom
it's
is
a rare sight here.
Yes, that's true. It is in England. But it's been really lovely to see you again and catch up. Thank you so much for putting the time into showing us your quilt and how you made it. It's been really lovely. I hope that we'll see you again one day.
One day, yeah. I'm sure it's not going to be lasting forever, but it just feels like that, doesn't it? But thank you
So if
too.
you've enjoyed this, that's fine. If you've enjoyed this chat, please click the subscribe button, which I'm hoping is just there, and also the thumbs up, which is also really great if you do that for us. Oh, Claire's got 2 thumbs, even better. Please comment. We get some lovely comments, lovely feedback. Both Claire and I will see and respond to. So thanks again, Claire. It's been lovely to see you, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.